Let's say you start a freelance marketplace like Upwork for Pakistan, but soon discover that the market for such services is trending more towards a frictionless experience. You have a choice to make. Either you stay the course, build a new feature that's baked into your current product, or build something entirely new. My guest in today's podcast did just that. Built a new product using feedback from freelancers. In this episode of the Misaal podcast, my guest is Aizaz Nayyer, co-founder and CEO of Linkst.ar. During our conversation, he talks about how him and his team built a new product based on feedback that they got from freelancers, switched from a marketplace model to more SaaS-based model, and where does he see himself in the next 5 years? Let's listen in. Welcome to the Misaal podcast, Aizaz. How are you?
I'm good, Zayed. How are you?
I'm doing well. Well, thanks for joining. And I know it's kind of late, but congratulations. You not recently, but few weeks back raised funding. So that's all great. I would love to hear more about that. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what problem you're solving with Linkst.ar.
Thank you. And thanks for having me on the podcast. I know we've had it took a few times to get the calendars in sync, but happy to be here. And so Linkst.ar actually started off as an instant landing page for freelancers and influencers. And the concept was that we wanted to be able to give freelancers and influencers and creators the opportunity to sell services directly to their customers, right? Via social media integration. So you have your own landing page, you go and put it in your Instagram link in bio, your LinkedIn, where you can add your website, WhatsApp, and so on, right? And that's how we started off. And how we wanted to differentiate was that ultimately we wanted to help the top percentage of our Linkstars find business as well from our platform. That's kind of how we started off. And the reason we started this off, actually, the backstory for this is that previously we had founded a freelance marketplace in Pakistan called Savvy. So Savvy, we launched that in 2021, Jan of 2021. That was a marketplace for vetted freelancers. And we actually scaled that to $6-digit revenues. That was completely bootstrapped. And during that journey, we actually learned a lot. So actually what ended up happening was that we had pre-vetted freelancers, right? So we had a whole mechanism in place for vetting them. And what we used to see was that there was a lot of chatting going on the platform, but the conversions were lower. But how we were actually successful was where there was a bigger project like an app or so, and people contacted us directly. And we kind of, because we had the freelancers on the platform, so we had an account manager who used to manage the team with the freelancers and kind of get the work done. That was how we were kind of most successful. And we ended up working with companies in 15 countries, some big names. We work with Swivel, we work with Reckitt, Dettol, lots of Elara Health, which is an African health tech startup, a lot across the board, right? However, we kind of realized that this wasn't something that was particularly scalable or investable. And we came upon research which indicated that 87% of freelance work was actually happening outside of freelance marketplaces, right? So that's via social media, via referrals, via personal networks, and so on. So, we were like, there is a big share of the pie over there, right? And we were like, how can we kind of capture this? How can we provide value to the freelancers and influencers to actually sell outside of these marketplaces? Because with our experience as well, we used to see that a lot of times with the chatting, people would be like, okay, yeah, this is great. It was a point of discovery. And after that, they wanted to take it outside the platform, right? For whatever reason, in Pakistan, particularly, people are more comfortable just picking up the phone and calling rather than, talking on chat and so on. So lots of reasons for that. But that's where we kind of got the concept for Linkst.ar to enable these freelancers and influencers to actually, well, they started off with freelancers, we added influencers later, but to sell their services directly to their customers. But this time around, we were like, we're not going to bootstrap this time. So let's go and raise some funds for this. And we were very fortunate. I think it was our second call or third call, and we actually ended up raising funding from K3 Diversity Ventures. So K3 are a group of investors based out of Canada and US, and they are Pakistani ex-Pakistani nationals now settled there, and they have some very notable investments, including SpaceX as well. And so having them on board, one of their members was actually a general manager at LinkedIn, and he kind of validated that a lot of freelance work was happening outside of marketplaces. So getting that validation and on your second or third call was massive for us, right? And it kind of set up the momentum to carry on from there. Then we ended up raising some money from Sarmayakar via their operating angel network. So that kind of gave us the leverage to actually upgrade our team a bit, because with Savvy, the reason why we didn't just kind of continue or kind of modify the product within Savvy was because of the architecture of the platform. Obviously, since we were bootstrapping, it was not of the highest caliber, and we felt like taking a fresh start with fresh engineers was probably going to be more fruitful with a fresh brand name. So that's how we kind of created Linkst.ar. So funny thing over there, by the way, all three of us, the co-founders, so me, Adil, and Ali, we're all childhood friends. So Adil and I go back 15 years. We were in school together, and the first time I went to his house was probably in like 2008. So it wasn't just like I knew them, but actively, visiting each other's houses and so on. So I talk about it. We used to go and back in the day play PlayStation, and years later in the same lounge we kind of came up with a business and started off. So one of those nice stories. And Ali was our friend from A levels, and Ali and I in fact actually share the same birthday. So that's how we had actually, that was our first interaction. So three of us just actually just got together. We started off with Savvy, and it was at the time it was a leap of faith for me, because I was working at Daraz, and which is the number one e-commerce platform in Pakistan, owned by Alibaba, and I launched this regional department, which is now known as Daraz Advertising Solutions. Back in the day, it was very vaguely titled Private Traffic. And what this department actually did was it used to leverage Daraz's data points to get customized ads in partnership with Facebook and Google, delivered to buyers of brands such as Unilever and Samsung and so on, to help increase their conversion, right, and send better quality traffic to their Daraz stores. And so we launched that in 5 countries where Daraz is, which is Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Nepal, Bangladesh. And that was a great experience. And when I started off with Savvy, actually it came about as a result of working with a lot of agencies during my time at Daraz, noticing several inefficiencies in that process, right? So it was usually that sometimes the designer was, I had to get a campaign live and the designer was busy, or there were delays coming in from the agency side, and I was just like, I had actually successfully freelanced during my time at Lumps at university. So I was very aware of the freelance kind of culture, and I was like, what, if these guys could just get in freelancers, maybe they could speed this execution up. So that was the initial kind of reason why we started off with Savvy in the first place. And later on with Linkst.ar, like I mentioned earlier, we started off as a landing page, but we had this vision to kind of help the top percentage of our Linkstars find work. So we actually kicked that process off in June of this year, and we decided this time to go in with a specific niche. So the niche that we targeted for businesses is marketing. So for businesses, how we position ourselves is the one-stop shop for your marketing solutions, with Linkst.ar having a vetted network of freelance marketing professionals and influencers with experience at some of the top brands, startups, and agencies, right? And this actually, again, came about by solving our own problems. So we were trying to find an agency for marketing Linkst.ar. And the whole process, so when we started off by finding an agency, we went out, put some posts up on LinkedIn and asked around, and immediately we were inundated with lots of, comments and inboxes and pitch decks and proposals and so on, right? So it was like we had to kind of go through all those and then set up calls, and then within the calls, people were like, okay, fine, we'll get back to you with a pitch in 2 weeks. And some of them never showed up after that, and so on. So it was a very, the whole process ultimately took us about a month to lock in agency. And within a month, we kind of saw that this is not working out. So we have to find another one now. So that process again started. And again, we were like, ultimately what ended up happening was that from within our Linkst.ar talent pool, we found someone who was working at a very good agency, which was way out of our budget. And we kind of just got him on board to start running performance marketing campaigns for us. And this was well within our budget. Like, if we went with the agency and getting this guy, it was a 10x differential. So we were like, what, this actually solved our problem. And we can get, good quality talent in the same price point that maybe a lower tier agency would offer us without that same quality. So, and this worked for us, this solved our problem. So maybe, this is one area which we can focus on. So we went and started asking around. We talked with over 50 companies of various sizes. And we found that almost 83% of them had experienced similar issues to what we'd faced previously with agencies. And so we thought that, okay, this is the niche, because we didn't want to go too broad initially. We thought about it. We're like, okay, if someone thinks design, Behance or Dribble come to mind already. For developers, there's stuff like Turing.com. But when you think of marketing, if you think of an aggregator or one platform which can kind of solve all these needs, at least in Pakistan, there was nothing top of mind coming in. So we saw a gap there, and we saw a need for it as well. And that's why we decided to go in with that. And from June to August, we've now worked with over 100 companies, providing them with solutions. So we actually are able to we are able to create a freelance agency for them, essentially a cloud agency, within 48 hours. With the USP being that if you're an e-commerce brand selling, fashion clothes, we can find you relevant people with experience who have previously sold, clothes in fashion and so on. And these are all people with experience that at the same price point you would not be able to get if you went to an agency, right? And that was kind of the premise of how we started off. And so far, it's been going well. We've been getting, 100% month-on-month growth from July to August. And yeah, so that's what we've been up to.
So you and Ali share the same birthday. I share my birthday with my son. Like, we were born on the same day. Anyways, so when you went from Savvy to Linkst.ar, so you mentioned that you did some research and you realized that a lot of people are doing people want to talk to other people, and maybe they're doing a lot of work outside of these freelancing platforms. So how did you come about? How did you figure this out? What was that aha moment that you had where you said, what, this is what's happening, and I think we should be, capitalizing on it?
It all came about through our own experiences, right? So we used to notice the traffic coming onto the platform and chatting. However, we also used to see them, so we had communication restrictions in place, right? But people are smart, they can bypass them. There's only so much you can do. So it's exactly right. So and what we kind of saw was people just kind of wanted to have this ease for themselves, right? They maybe, although we even launched voice recordings as well, right? So that people could just send a voice message as well. But again, this requires a marketplace of that size requires a lot of burn, and we were bootstrapping at the time. And we actually, so this is very interesting. Actually, most people think that we're competing with maybe Fiverr or Upwork, and those are behemoths in the industry. But actually, the size of the freelance market goes into trillions of dollars, right? And Fiverr and Upwork combined, their market capitalization is under 10 billion. And for context, 1 trillion is 1,000 billion, right? And their revenues, I think Fiverr's revenue for the last year was around $300 million or so. So actually, despite them being massive names, there's a lot more going on in the freelance space beyond just the major players that we hear of, right? And that is the work that is actually happening outside of these platforms, right? So we did a quick survey as well with freelancers. We found that how do you find your work? And, referrals and personal networks and social media were things that kept up coming repeatedly. And we saw a trend that was emerging of people actually leveraging social media. So now if I'm a graphic designer, I make my own Instagram page and I post my projects over there. I talk about them on LinkedIn. So those discovery channels were being tapped, and we saw those increasing with the newer generation coming in as well, which is obviously more social media savvy than previous generations as well. So that's kind of, so it was a lot of moments that led up to us coming to this conclusion that this is definitely a space where we can try it out. And of course, you put out a product and let's see what the response is. So within the first 3 months, we had 10,000 signups on Linkst.ar just for the landing page, without any mention that we're going to help you guys get business, right? It was just for the landing page, which people wanted to use to put their portfolio, put their services. We had payment integrations as well, right? So just the value addition there was enough to validate that use case for us.
Before, of course, when you were working with Savvy, you were basically a middleman and taking a cut between whatever the customer wanted to pay for the freelancer and all that stuff, right? But now what I see from the website is you are going after a more SaaS-based subscription model, where the freelancer is the one who is paying you for certain features, so that free. Of course, anyone can sign up and it's free. The basic tier is free, but if they want payments and all that stuff, they have to pay a certain subscription fee. So was there a deliberate pricing thing that you did where you're like, this is the pricing you want to go for? Did you ask freelancers the question that will they be willing to pay, or was this something that you just thought that you would try it out and see if it works?
So that's a very interesting question, actually. So of course we did ask. However, most research would indicate that asking people is oftentimes not the best way. Because people will say yes, but ultimately in practice they might not end up doing that. That's usually a very common kind of challenge that you face in research. So the best thing to do is kind of put something out there and see how it goes, right? So it was a combination of both things. We did ask people, however, we took all the interviews with a grain of salt, with the kind of guiding principle be once we put it out, let's see what the traction is then, right? However, just to add on. That monetization stream is on the freelance side. However, on the business side as well, we have different monetization streams there as well, right? So over there, for example, we're doing a couple of things. So one is that if you're looking for freelance talent and you don't know where to go, where to look, and what we are promising you is that we can find you the perfect fit for your company, right? And so we can charge a one-time matching fee for that, right? For just providing you with that freelancer. However, if you kind of want, maybe a team of 3 to 4 freelancers and you don't want to manage that all yourself, you want a managed solution. So we provide that for you as well as part of a managed solution where we give you an account manager as well. This is obviously, there's a certain spend threshold for that. So those are the ways that we're monetizing with the business. And yes, we do have something in the works for a SaaS model for the business for the businesses as well, right? So different things going on that front as well. It's a two-way monetization going on.
One interesting thing that I saw on the website was the pricing. In the pricing table, there was like a lifetime, package too for $45. I think that's a steal for $45. But like, have you had like interest in like people saying, this is like a great deal? I know in Pakistani rupees, it's 10,000 rupees, but like, still I personally think it's a steal given that, in the future, anyone who signs up for that will have like a permanent page which they can use. It's basically you're providing free hosting for life, right? That's what you're providing. So I think that's a great deal. So was that like a decision just to see if anyone will purchase it, or was that decision also like deliberate in the sense that you're like, we think this will work?
A lot of the way we kind of go about these things is experimentation. So we don't think, we can't guarantee that if something will work, right? But our belief is that put it out there, see what the response is. see what, so basically whenever we start something, we try to measure it with what does success look like, right? So if, for example, in this case, success looked like, okay, we're launching this in Pakistan. By the way, we just kind of put this out last week, I believe, the lifetime deal. So it's a very recent thing. And so we try to put it out there and to see what response we would get from the Pakistani community. Internationally, we had a pretty fair idea because we studied the pricing of competitors and we had a fair idea that this might be a good deal. However, we haven't launched it internationally yet. We're just trying it out over here locally first. So we've actually had a couple of people purchase it already. It's not, again, it was just something to see if what the response would be like. However, we do feel that the best response would come from abroad. So we're just getting our international payment gateway ready. So we've signed an MOU recently with Bank Al Falah. So we're getting a lot of kind of financial services figured out with them, and soon we should have that ready so that we can kind of start marketing especially the international package abroad and see what the response is like.
I know your official title is the CEO, and your background is basically in marketing. So who's dealing with the technical side of things? Are you developing in-house or is it outsourced?
All right, so I'll tell you a little bit about our team. So when we started off, it was just me and Adil in his lounge. And this is back in our Savvy days. And we kind of initially just hired interns. So we went through a very painful journey, right? The reason I mentioned that is because it actually ties into our mentality today, right? So we just kind of hired interns initially, tried to get some work done, got a platform there, but of course it was terrible in terms of bugs and so on. And made some hiring mistakes along the way. So both of us were non-technical founders. Adil's background is in finance. So he studied from the UK, worked for a few years at Santander, which is Europe's fourth largest bank. And then he came back home. He had a family business in FMCG and chemicals, which he launched a few new brands and so on. So that was his background. And my background, of course, was I studied economics. I had worked at Daraz, digital marketing, sales, that kind of stuff. And Ali, our third co-founder, comes from an agency background. So he was actually working at an agency. He was managing accounts for Emar and Engro, and he was managing influencer campaigns, a lot of that stuff. So he was pretty deep into that world. So those were our personal backgrounds. And Ali is our chief operating officer. And he also had experience with building tech products. So with Savvy, we actually managed to build 2 apps for 2 funded startups. And we did that. And so Ali was leading that. So the tech experience, all 3 of us did our own courses. So we took these online courses to get our basics and fundamentals sorted out. And but our key decision was to always keep it in-house. Because we felt like what we were building was something which was we didn't want it to be cookie cutter. We wanted there to be a lot of research involved, and we wanted the sync to be there in a way that we felt like it needed to be in-house. It wasn't less that, this is something that's been done in India, just go and copy it and, replicate it over here. A lot of it was coming out of our own insight, and we felt like having a proper product team and a tech team, it was very important. So our tech lead today is he's from Oracle. And very, very, very sharp guy. And we have a total team of around 35 people today. So this is spread out across product and tech and marketing, design, and we have now. So June onwards, we've actually really got the proper team together. So we have multiple people from Daraz. We have people from Snunu, which is a UAE-based delivery startup. We have like I mentioned, Oracle. Then we have some people from agency backgrounds as well. We got a good kind of mix. We have an in-house influencer actually. She started off as a blogger and she's grown her following now as well. So now the team has really kind of come together, and we've tried to keep things in-house and use freelance talent to support us where necessary. So in design, we often, engage freelance talent. Our performance marketing is handled by someone working at an agency, a very good agency. And so we kind of plug and play wherever necessary.
I mean, of course, like you are time tested, you have done few things in your life that you have experimented a lot, right? So during all this experimentation that you have done, like, have you faced a challenge that was like, something that you were like, what, if we can solve this, we can, do a lot of things. And what was that challenge like?
That's a great question. I mean, look, it's been challenges galore. Like in this kind of you choose this life, right? And you have to be a little bit crazy to choose this life, to be very honest, right? People think that you go and do a startup for the money or whatever, but there are much easier ways to make money, right? People make money in a lot of different ways. So you have to have some kind of, you have to be a little wacky to kind of get into this. It's not the most rational thing to do. With that being said, in our case, so I had actually freelanced myself during my university days, like I mentioned. And I was pretty successful with it. I actually went to watch the World Cup in 2018, for the Football World Cup. Went to see Ronaldo playing live and all that. And I did that all through the earnings that I had made via freelance during my university days. So I had got the taste of living life on your own terms, in a way, right? With that freedom and what you can do on your own time, right? So that was already there as a formative experience, you could say. And I always was the sort of person, even at the companies that I worked at. So my first job was as a management trainee at House of Habib. So House of Habib is basically one of the biggest conglomerates in Pakistan. So Indus Motor Company, which makes all your Toyota vehicles, and Habib Metropolitan Bank, and they have Thal Limited, which makes all the car parts in Pakistan. So they have 10, 12 different companies under their umbrella. So I went there, and I went in a relatively struggling company over there, which was in their paper sack division, which was selling paper bags. It just set up this new plant to sell paper bags. And when I got in that, this was, like I said, it was a struggling company at the time. And this new division, which was selling paper bags for fashion brands, had just started off, and they had terrible sales. They had sold 9,000 bags in December of 2017 when I came in. And at the same time, the next year we sold 900,000 bags, right? So it was a journey. And that really, within a company which was very old school, I got to have a very startup-like experience, right? Within that, I built up a whole new vertical and so on. So that flavor really set me up, because I built a new brand for them as well, right? So I did the logo, I did the new designs for the bags. I went to the factory to get them produced. I went to the distributor. I got a distributor on board in multiple cities, right? So all of that holistic experience, I guess, was always there, where I never wanted to kind of just, if I'm in HR, then it's just HR for me. I was always curious about how is the whole company kind of functioning, what makes this company tick, what's going on in sales, what's going on in finance, and how are they all linked together, right? And that's kind of what served me well when I went for my next job at Daraz, because again, I had to launch a fresh department. And we did that, launched it in 5 countries. So all that experience, I think I was very fortunate, I guess. I don't think that it was all by design. Something of it was also luck. So solving those challenges at that time, and because when you come in and there's nothing, some people prefer to go in a well-oiled machine, right, where everything is already set up. But my preference was always that I go in somewhere where I can make a huge impact, right? There's nothing there, and when I leave, there is something built there. That's what I always wanted to do. And that kind of motivation continued even in the startup world. Where, for example, we saw that there was no real avenue to get freelance talent within Pakistan. That's why we started off with Savvy, and then we realized that Savvy wasn't the most investable thing, because investors typically, when they look at freelance marketplaces, of course, they look at the margins over there, and they look at the burn that's required, and it's not the most attractive value proposition. So we had to find something that was more scalable, and something that actually solved a problem. Now, interestingly, I don't know if you've heard about it or not, Google actually launched this platform after we launched Linkst.ar. Google actually trialed this product out called Kaya in the United States. So that's actually a storefront for creators as well, for digital creators, where they can actually go and put up all their own services and kind of sell their services over there. So we saw that there is, if Google is doing something in this space, then there's definitely value over there, right? So those kind of validations over there and our own experiences, right? Because we didn't like communication restrictions. We wanted to be able to, integrate people into our normal workflow. So whenever we wanted to get a freelancer on board to work with us, we preferred if we can just kind of add him to the particular, if it's a WhatsApp group or a Slack channel or whatever, right? Or have a call like I'm doing with you or whatever, right? And sometimes it's easier to integrate them into your own kind of process flow rather than creating a completely separate process flow where you have to get your whole team involved, right? Which is a little more, you could say, it requires more effort on your part. So those were the kind of factors that just came into it. It was just kind of solving our own problems. And again, with the vision being that we just kind of wanted to help people. Adil and I are both, and even Ali, we're all salespeople at heart. And we kind of, the thrill of going and making a sale is something that we love, and we kind of want more and more people to experience on their own terms, right? So with Linkst.ar, we felt like it could actually help these people get better conversions. If you come up with something, you're commenting on a Facebook group that okay, I'm available, and some other person is actually putting in a Linkst.ar, which already has their pricing and their packages and their services and their contact details and social proofs and all of that, right? So that actually helps that person convert that sale. So that's the kind of initial thought process that was there, just help people sell, right? And then obviously the best people that were within that, we can actually further help them by matching them with businesses that are, again, looking for their services. So yeah, I mean, it's been challenges along the way, but I think the intrinsic drive was just to always was to create something, you could say, which is larger than me, larger than us. Something which can kind of have some sort of legacy. And it's interesting because during the time with Savvy, where we had kind of, like I mentioned, we weren't doing something which was scalable. It was making us money, sure, but it wasn't something that was scalable. And my wife was actually like, you know what, this isn't why you started off. You started off to build something grander. But right now, you're essentially an agency yourself. So that was the kind of thing I was like, yeah, man, you're right. I need to do something which is bigger and can solve more problems for more people. So yeah, that's a little bit about that.
One thing I usually ask my guests is basically like, when you start something, when you try to solve a problem, there are certain assumptions that you already have. Like, this is how it will work, or this is what will happen if I do A, B will happen. If I do B, C will happen. What were some of the assumptions that were tested where you thought something would happen, but it was completely opposite?
So actually, that's a great question. And starting off, sometimes you kind of tend to do things haphazardly. Sometimes, for example, when you have a smaller team, sometimes you make the mistake of thinking that, okay, if I think this, then other people might think this too. And the key over there is to just fail fast, right? The key over there is to put something out there and get the feedback and not get married to this idea that was in your head, right? So, for example, one of the assumptions that we had was that people wanted to have their own payment gateway, right? And this is something that we assumed, why wouldn't people want to have their own payment gateway? And so we kind of integrated the payment gateway and gave it to people. However, initially we saw that we weren't getting too much, traction on it. So we were like, why is this not happening? We assumed that, we talked to people and they said they wanted it. Why is it not happening now? And so you kind of, then you go back into it and then you talk to people again. And now you see, okay, so the process flow is not very user-friendly, right? So what's actually happening is that instead of being able to integrate it directly from the platform, they have to go and download the app for the banking provider and sign up over there and then come back to the platform. And there's no link which is linking it directly and so on, right? So then you say, okay, fine. So we have to create a better user experience, right? So then you create a better user experience and then you see, did we have an uplift in the conversions of people using this platform, right? Or people using this particular feature? So if you did, great. If you didn't, you talk again, you iterate, and you continue until you achieve what the metric was that you set for success looking like. And that's the case with everything. So when we started off, for example, we kept a metric for completion. So obviously someone comes in, they're making a landing page, but someone might just put their name and not do anything beyond that. Other people might make a whole thing, so there are different things. So you have to have criteria set. So we set those in, and initially we saw that the completion rate was low, and we thought, how can we kind of solve this? And can we do that by increasing features? Maybe the features aren't attractive enough. But what it actually was that in some cases the site was slow, right? So we had to improve the speed of the site, for example. That was one learning that we got, and we tried it out, and we saw, okay, there's an uptick coming here. Then there was another learning that maybe we have to add a tutorial in that, so that when people come into the builder, they don't get confused. There's a guide just showing them, okay, you go here, you go here, you go here. And then you keep on measuring how your new kind of feature impacted the metric that you were tracking. So that's how we kind of proceed with it. It's a very it's become a lot more analytical and data driven. Took some time to get there. Obviously, you have to kind of get people to think a certain way. But once you kind of do that, once you get a few successes under your belt for a problem that you were started off at, let's say 10%, and today it's 20%. So that gives the team confidence as well to continue solving the little challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis.
Sounds good. So my last question to you is about where do you see yourself within 5 years, 10 years? What's your North Star metric? What is your definition, or what is your idea of success for Linkst.ar?
That's a great question. So for us, this is something that I recently spoke about with someone else as well, who was asking me that, are you going to be the Fiverr of Pakistan? And I was like, you know what, I want to be the first Linkst.ar. We don't want to be the next Fiverr or the next Upwork or so on. We want to be the first Linkst.ar. And our metric actually is seeing how many lives we can actually impact, right? And our actual goal is to help 10 million people sell on their own terms. And when I say on their own terms, what I mean is that they actually are able to set up their landing page, right, and utilize and leverage social media and build their personal brand to actually go and sell on their own terms, right, without having the communication restrictions there, without having to depend on just a freelance marketplace where they get contacted by someone, right? Because like I mentioned, we're salespeople ourselves, right? We know the importance of setting up different kind of sales channels, and we see a trend coming in now of more and more people acknowledging that and recognizing that and leveraging different channels, right? So we actually see especially, by the way, an interesting point, although it's a little diverging from your question, but in Pakistan especially, right? In fiscal year 22, we had $400 million worth of revenue via freelance. And that's an extremely low number for a country which has, a median age of 22, 23. It's extremely low. It can be way higher. And the reason for that is that we claim to have maybe 4 million freelancers or so, but the level of quality and the level of services that we're selling it's not up to the mark to compete at international level, right? So education, right? Education and being able to actually refine and package yourself and sell your own personal brand to someone, right? It's all about that credibility and trust that you have to build. Why does Zayed want to work with me, right? So that's something where we feel like, especially in Pakistan, we can really help the freelance community, right? And even internationally as well. Internationally, obviously, the concept of having your own personal website, for example, is way more common and widely accepted. And we see this becoming more and more and more common in the next 5 years or so, right? So we think that today, if 2 people out of 10 have their own personal website, tomorrow it's going to be 5 or 6. That's where we're aiming towards, right? And everyone, like we're seeing with remote work, more and more people now have time to actually have a side hustle or work on the side. And especially in Pakistan, when I mentioned that we're actually seeing a trend now of people who are working at, like I said, good startups, good brands, good agencies, with inflation cutting into their incomes. they are able to actually, we are actually able to help them make up that amount that they were losing, right? By providing them with clientele ourselves as well, and by encouraging them to go out there and put themselves out there on LinkedIn and on Instagram and so on. So we're seeing a trend there, and we want to be part of that kind of, you could say, revolution that's currently taking place for the future of work and for the future of being able to sell your own work and your services on your own terms.
Yeah, I mean, it's very common for people like, people who have a little bit of following to like have that, link in bio, or like there's a Linktree page and all that stuff. So it's very common, like people I know who don't sell anything, that they don't even like, they have absolutely zero presence on social media, in the sense that they have like 100, 200 followers. Even they have like a page which basically links to their LinkedIn or their Twitter or their Facebook. So almost everyone here at least has this understanding that, hey, if someone wants to reach you, make it easy for them to reach you. And especially people who are selling a service, for them it's like it's a no-brainer, right? They need to make it easy and as frictionless as possible to basically sell the services. So anyone who comes in and provides them that solution where they can sell anything they want to and make it easy for them, I think that's a winning product. So that's great. Thank you so much for being on the Misaal podcast. It was lovely talking to you and learning more about Linkst.ar, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Zayed. It was a pleasure. And best of luck with the Misaal podcast. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Misaal podcast. I hope you enjoyed the podcast and will thank me by writing a review or sharing it on social media. Make sure you follow and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Thanks again. See you soon.